G'day and welcome to Salem's Travels. My name's Ben and today we're going to do a little review / comparison on a couple of high lift jacks. Here we've got my genuine high lift unit which I got from ARB quite a few years ago. It's about 15 years old now. And here we've got a Hercules jack we got from the Full Drive Super Centre. It's about 18 months old. So we're just going to do a bit of a comparison. There's probably about a $50 price difference between them, so it's not a lot of money, but as always no one wants to spend money if they don't need to or if there's no real advantage to it. So let's just see if there's much different between the two of them. Now obviously this one's a little bit shorter than this one. This one's a 48 inch, whereas this is a 60 inch. Both units come in each size, so there's the 48 inch and the 60 inch, regardless of what brand you go for. So this jack's about 15 years old, maybe a little bit longer. It has always lived on the outside of my full drive and it has never had a bag over it. And it has always worked. I've never had any failures in the mechanism, nothing's replaced, everything is exactly as it was when I bought it all that time ago. This one however has spent all its time sitting in the shed, so a bit over a year we've had it and it hasn't actually made it out into the world. But I do use it around the yard for different things and I can't say it's as reliable. Whether I do notice it builds up a lot of corrosion a lot quicker, and when you consider that the high lift sits outside and there's no real signs of surface rust, whereas the Hercules jack has got quite a fair bit of surface rust, to the point where the last time I tried to use it, the mechanism didn't work. It was all sort of rusted up and I needed to get the hammer out to bang everything loose so it would work. But for something that spent all its life in the shed, I'm not real confident that it would handle being outside for 15 years amongst the mud and the water. Lifting nose is a little bit longer here. And it's got this little kick up at the end. The base on the high lift jack is a fraction smaller, but anyone that's used one of these knows that if the ground is soft, the tiny difference between the two is not going to make any difference at all really. So one difference that may or may not matter to you, but you can see on the high lift jack there's these little edges here which are not on the Hercules jack. And whilst I don't think that is going to be a huge difference from a strength point of view, there are a lot of accessories that are made to fit a high lift jack and they do rely on these being in place to work properly. You can still use them with this, it's just they don't quite function as well. Another key difference is in the handles. You can see here the high lift jack has a two-piece handle. It's got the bracket down the bottom and then the tube that slides in it, whereas the Hercules and many other jacks have a one-piece handle. This is actually the big difference between a genuine high lift and a lot of the other brands. Now most of the time that won't matter, but if this handle gets pulled to the side, then it's obviously it's already got a crimp in the bottom and it will bend pretty easily compared to the straight tube that is this. Another issue which may or not matter to you, but it may down the track, is there are a lot of recovery gear accessories that use the handle from the high lift jack. You can buy gear that has shovel heads and pick heads and they are all designed to use the high lift handle, so they pack away into a small space, and obviously there's no point carrying handles for every single device, as most likely you only use one at a time. So there's a couple of minor differences that indicate a better build, but at the end of the day they don't really contribute to a better functioning or longer lasting jack. For example, down here at the mechanism you can see the high lift unit has a bit more care and attention has gone into the shaping of the parts, the sort of rounded edges, and just a bit neater and tidier, whereas the Hercules jack has square edges. It's just you know, a little less effort's gone into the making of it, but that's no big deal. It's not going to affect how it works. Comparing the mechanism from one to the other, there's not a lot I would say is different. The thicknesses of the steel used and the lever and the mechanisms seem to be about the same. They're both rated for 1,050 kilos according to the Australian standard. So on paper they both have the same lifting capacity, but in practice that may not be the same story. I do know the high lift jack is tested to lift 3,175 kilos. I can't say the same for the Hercules jack. Other than that, there's not much between them. I think they're both a pretty good unit. They seem to be well made. They weigh, for the same size jack, they weigh about the same. So for my money, I'd spend the extra $50 and get a genuine high lift unit. Based on how quickly the Hercules starts to jam up with rust, I'd say there's a much better quality steel in the high lift unit. And I think that would really show itself if a large load was placed on the high lift jack. As always, if you found this video helpful in any way, then give us a like, and if you want to see more from Salem's Travels, then hit that subscribe button. Until next time, hooroo!